Welcome to our 7th and final episode in the Sailing into the American Heartland series. We left off in Kingston, Ontario, on the doorstep of the Thousand Islands area. In our previous episode, we had officially turned around from our westernmost point on the west coast of Lake Michigan to head back east toward our home waters. You will recall that we stopped over at South Manitou Island, home to the Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore on Lake Michigan. And then we highlighted Canada's Paley Island and Long Point, both on Lake Erie, before we transited down the Welland Canal, which connects Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. Then we crossed to the north shore of Lake Ontario and explored from Toronto to Kingston, Ontario. In this episode, we will share the beauty and some of the history of the Thousand Islands. According to Wikipedia, the Thousand Islands constitute an archipelago of 1,864 islands that straddle the Canada-U.S. border in the St. Lawrence River as it emerges from the northeast corner of Lake Ontario. They stretch for about 50 miles or 80 kilometers downstream from Kingston, Ontario. The Canadian islands are in the province of Ontario and the U.S. islands are in the state of New York. The islands range in size from over 40 square miles to smaller islands occupied by a single residence or just uninhabited outcroppings of rocks. To count as one of the Thousand Islands, emergent land within the river channel must have at least 1 square foot of land above water level year-round, and it must support at least 2 living trees. We spent nearly all of September in the Thousand Islands, and we found this a terrific month to visit. The weather is still typically very nice, and many of the crowds and tourists have gone home for the start of the school year. Because this area is so vast and the places to explore so plentiful, there has been developed over time a grouping of islands into named entities, which helps everyone refer to specific regions within the Thousand Islands. Here is a map from the cruising guides we used. The cruising guide was called Ports, the Cruising Guides. And you can see here the area of the St. Lawrence River east of Lake Ontario, and the key areas of exploration are these in the center, though there are many other terrific places to make your way into as well. In each of these named groups, there are some islands that are state or national parks and some that are private, and the cruising guide helps you understand which ones you can go to shore on and which ones you cannot. Let's look at one grouping, the Admiralty group. Here's a picture to help orient you to just the islands in this one group. We spent time near Aubrey and Beau Rivage and other anchorages in this group. This chart of the same area helps you understand where you can find those anchorages, and it also shows you where you're allowed to go ashore. The islands and crystal clear waters are not the only aspects which make this such a beautiful place to visit. The architecture and landscape are incredible as well. In fact, the area is home to 2 honest-to-goodness castles. Here are some shots of Bolt Castle. And some of Singer Castle. This is associated at arm's length to a descendant of the family of Singer sewing machines. Many of the islands are part of Canada's Thousand Island National Park, so you can go ashore and hike, you can take your dog for some relief, and there are often docks to tie off at, and even a picnic table or 2 that come in handy. Our friends Don and Shelley joined us for a week. With incredible hot days and refreshingly cool waters, we spent much of our free time enjoying water sports. Here's our friend Steve on his first or second time on a paddleboard. He's doing pretty good. And yes, that footage is sped up. He's a pretty relaxed guy, as seen here with a few of our other water toys. This complex and often narrow stretch of water has a major channel going through it, the St. Lawrence Ship Channel. Huge commercial ships of all kinds pass through here regularly. This is the major way for commercial traffic to move by ship any goods that come from or go to the center of the United States from anywhere else in the world, and vice versa. The channel markers make beautiful contributions to the landscape, and I found myself continually snapping pictures of them.
This is called the American Narrows of the St. Lawrence River. They seem like they're holding their course pretty well, but feels like a tight squeeze. It's hard for us to figure out how to get through here. I'm feeling like we're really close. It's got to be hard for these captains when they're way up there high in the wheelhouse, looking down on their 700-foot long ship, trying to make sure that it goes through the channel far enough away from boats like us, but stay inside the channel at the same time. The ship's name is Bluebill. We got a lot of current through here. It's kind of averages about a knot, but it's up to 2.5 knots sometimes when it gets really narrow. So that makes it even more complicated. Kind of pushes and pulls the boat. It's hard to steer a straight course. They ghost by so quietly, but they're huge.
We were thrilled to have 3 different sets of friends and relatives join us during this segment of our summer exploration. You've already met Don and Shelley and Steve. This is my Uncle Dave and his lovely wife Jane, who live in upstate New York and came over to Clayton, New York to see us. A highlights video of the Thousand Islands area wouldn't be complete without sharing a couple amazing sunsets and general sky shots. I'll leave you with these. Thank you very much for watching our Sailing into the American Heartland series.